Here is what we know about the return so far. So, the couple are moving back. Apparently, according to the Daily Mail, it might be happening within days.
They're not moving back to the United Kingdom because they want to. They're moving back to the United Kingdom because Harry is endangered as a result of the feds. On the 11th of August, there was a meeting with the feds where they were inquiring into and looking into the paperwork that he submitted.
And I think this is quite true. This is from Royalty. The Sussexes moving back to the UK is the most embarrassing and desperate thing they have done since they left.
To refresh my memory. But it's like several years in prison. If he is found to have lied, it's a federal offense, and I think it's 5 years in prison, mandatory. So, and it doesn't matter.
Coverage, it's quite something. Look at this from the New York Post. Their front page. Our long national nightmare is over. Harry and Meghan returning to the UK after failing to take...
Somewhere in the last few weeks, Prince Harry went from a man who said he couldn't imagine bringing his family back to Britain to a man who's already enrolled his kids in a British school.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duke and Duchess of Hypocrisy, strike again in a not-so-surprising...
According to one royal author who's been tracking the story closely, the real trigger isn't sentiment at all. It's paperwork.
They're not moving back to the United Kingdom because they want to. They're moving back to the United Kingdom because Harry is endangered as a result of the feds. On the 11th of August, there was a meeting with the feds where they were inquiring into and looking into the paperwork that he submitted. I mean, I don't have my notes in front of me, but I think it was in 2021, about and his visa entry, and that there is a strong belief by the feds that Harry...
She claims US investigators have been quietly reviewing the immigration forms Harry filed back in 2021, and that there's a real belief inside that process that he wasn't truthful on them. That claim hasn't been confirmed by any other outlet, and it needs to be treated exactly that way. One commentator's sourcing, not an established fact. But it's the detail that reframes everything else being said publicly about why this is happening right now.
I told you this was going to happen 1 year ago. I have bad news for you. That secret meeting between Meghan's people and the King's people is nothing more than laying the groundwork for a comeback to the UK. And when I say comeback, I mean live in the UK. The whole Montecito bunch, at least for some time. My question is, who is enabling him? Who is the principal, the main enabler of Harry doing this with you know which intentions? Because I said that here in the Royal Rogue, that the only thing that Meghan and Harry have left is to come back to the UK. Did I say it or not? Or didn't I say it?
I did.
So, King Charles has become the main enabler.
Here's what's actually confirmed. Archie, who's 7, and Lily, who's 5, are enrolled in British schools starting in September.
Here is what we know about the return so far. So, the couple are moving back. Apparently, according to the Daily Mail, it might be happening within days of the announcement. They only told King Charles on Sunday. It's unclear when they told Catherine and William, but probably only within the last couple of days after.
A private home outside London has already been secured. Not a palace, not a royal residence, a private house.
So they leave the United States before August is out. They take a private house, not a palace, not Frogmore, of course, not a spare room at Buckingham Palace. The papers put it outside London. And King Charles, apparently...
King Charles, according to multiple outlets, was only told about the move on the Sunday before it broke publicly.
So King Charles was reportedly informed on Sunday that his son and daughter-in-law were coming back, and I cannot imagine what is going through his mind, because he's been very generous in welcoming Harry and back onto a royal residence, which was Highgrove House.
William and Catherine reportedly found out after that.
Of the announcement, they only told King Charles on Sunday. It's unclear when they told Catherine.
And here's the detail that makes the timeline actually strange. Weeks earlier, in July, Harry and Meghan sat down with Charles and Camilla for tea at Highgrove. According to reporting from inside that meeting, nothing was said about a move that was already, by any reasonable estimate, months into planning. You don't enroll 2 children in British schools in a couple of weeks. That takes time, paperwork, coordination.
According to The Sun, Harry and Meghan apparently did not tell Charles and Queen Camilla about their plans when the 4 of them met at Highgrove House in Gloucestershire in July, even though preparations for such a substantial international move must have been taking place for some time. And if that's true, that demonstrates how sneaky Harry and Meghan are, that they can sit there in Highgrove House, drink tea with the King and Queen Camilla, who, by the way, was there for the King's protection. And in case there were any lies about what was said at that meeting, which of course happened in the past, Harry and Meghan can sit there, have tea with the King and the Queen, and not mention that, oh yeah, by the way, Pa, just to let you know, I'll be back in England in like 4 weeks, yeah? So, can you make up one of the bedrooms of Buckingham Palace?
So whatever was actually discussed over tea that day, the full picture apparently wasn't part of it. Which makes the first real question of this story pretty simple. If this is genuinely about family, why keep the family in the dark until days before the announcement? The American press didn't buy the family framing for a second either.
Coverage, it's quite something. Look at this from the New York Post. Their front page. Our long national nightmare is over. Harry and Meghan returning to the UK after failing to take...
One New York tabloid ran the story under the headline, "Our long national nightmare is over," mocking the return as the couple failing to take the colonies. That's not the tone you'd expect for 2 people supposedly rushing home out of love for their relatives. It's the tone reserved for a retreat.
And I think this is quite true. This is from Royalty. The Sussexes moving back to the UK is the most embarrassing and desperate thing they have done since they left.
If the official explanation is schooling, that's a lot of secrecy and a lot of mockery for something this ordinary. Families change schools without federal timelines or tabloid front pages attached to it. So it's worth going back to what both of them were saying on the record right up until this happened. Harry lost a legal fight over restoring his UK police protection. Afterward, he told the BBC he couldn't see a future where he'd safely bring his wife and children back to Britain. Meghan has said publicly more than once that she didn't believe her kids could have a normal childhood in the UK, pointing to press intrusion as the reason.
Months ago said he can't imagine a future in which he would bring his family back to the UK. It was unfathomable to him just months ago. And now we have a complete pivot with absolutely no, preemptive change to his security arrangements. So either he was lying and overreacting then, or he's changed his mind. Similarly, Meghan Markle said on Oprah and in Netflix that there was no way her children would have a normal upbringing, a normal life, kids deserve to be kids type vibes in the UK because of the paparazzi, because of the media, because they would be hounding them. She said that there was no possible way to raise her children there, just absolutely not.
Neither of those positions came with an expiration date attached to it. Now the kids are enrolled, the house is secured, and the family is expected in the country within days, not months.
Archie is 7 and Lily is 5. I'm afraid we don't use the name Lilibet on the Mark Dolan show because we consider it to be a stolen name. They're coming back, not next year, not even in the autumn. They are returning at the end of this month. Harry, Meghan, Archie and Lily are coming back to Britain in the next few days. Their stay.
So what actually changed? Publicly, nothing. No new security arrangement has been confirmed by the Home Office or the Palace. Harry's request for his protection review to be reconsidered was refused earlier this year, and that refusal hasn't been reversed. The same risk he described as disqualifying hasn't been resolved in any way that's been made public.
Harry lost his challenge over UK security. He sat down with the BBC after that loss and said he could not see a world in which he would bring his wife and children back to...
Which leaves two options. Either the danger wasn't as absolute as it sounded at the time, or he's bringing his children into a situation he previously said he couldn't accept. Neither one does the just family explanation any favours.
So Prime Minister Andy Burnham was asked on camera whether taxpayers pay for this, and he said, and I quote, "Well, this is a private matter. It's a matter for Harry and for Meghan, and we wish them well in the moves that they are making." End of quote. So they hum.
And if the immigration claim from earlier has any truth to it, the stakes go well past embarrassment. The same commentator who raised it also pointed out that being untruthful on federal immigration paperwork isn't a fine or a warning. It can carry a mandatory prison term of up to 5 years, regardless of who's holding the passport. Again, that's one person's claim, not a confirmed charge, and nothing has been filed against Harry anywhere. But it explains, if there's any substance to it at all, why quietly relocating to another country might suddenly look far more appealing than waiting around for an answer.
To refresh my memory, but it's like several years in prison. If he is found to have lied, it's a federal offense, and I think it's 5 years in prison, mandatory. So, and it doesn't matter.
If the family story doesn't fully hold up, the money story might explain more of it. And that story starts in a courtroom, not a classroom. Weeks before any of this became public, a High Court judge ruled against Harry in his long-running case against the publisher of the Daily Mail. Mr. Justice Nicklin didn't just rule against him. He ruled there's no cap on how much of the publisher's legal costs Harry and his co-claimants could be ordered to cover, describing their conduct as unreasonable to a high degree. An interim payment of roughly £9.5 million was ordered within a week of the ruling. The total bill, once everything's settled, could run past £34 million. That's not a rounding error. That's the kind of number that changes what a person can afford to do next.
And let me just take you through some of the main parts of this. He says, Prince Harry and his fellow claimants behaved with such outrageous contempt for legal norms in their case against Associated Newspapers that a judge today decreed there is no limit to how much of the Mail's £34.5 million legal expenses A&L can seek.
It lands at almost the exact moment Harry and Meghan's American income has been quietly shrinking. Harry was reportedly commanding close to $1 million a speech when he left the UK in 2020. That figure has apparently dropped to somewhere around 50,000, with fewer bookings coming in at all. Meghan's most recent Netflix film, tied to her lifestyle brand, reportedly had its theatre count cut by roughly 3/4 within weeks of release. That's not a film finding its audience. That's a distributor cutting its losses.
So Meghan's Netflix deal, which involved 16 episodes of the truly horrific With Love Meghan show, was not fruitful. That deal stopped. Ted Sarandos tore up the retail agreement to sell Meghan's horrible jam and flower sprinkles. My husband! And of course, Harry's speaking engagements have been a disaster. He was earning $1 million per speech when they left the United Kingdom. It's gone down to $50,000 and the gigs are drying up.
There's also the question of what happens to the life they're leaving behind. The couple's own team says the 9-bedroom Montecito estate isn't being given up. But running a house that size on top of a new home in Britain isn't cheap under normal circumstances. And it's a much harder sell next to a legal bill that could hit 8 figures. Nobody's confirmed the mansion is going on the market. Keeping it, though, looks a lot less sustainable than it did a year ago.
In letting them get away. Which has always been absurd. And exactly what Meghan and Harry told themselves when they left and tried to bluff their way into...
Which is what makes the timing of the relocation itself so interesting. Because on paper, leaving America right now might be the single most financially sound decision this couple has made in 6 years. a UK tax advisor, Nimish Shah of the firm Blick Rothenberg, pointed out that Harry and Meghan are landing exactly on 6 full tax years of non-UK residency, the threshold that determines whether HMRC can still tax certain gains from their time abroad. His read on it: they have clearly had some good tax advice, and the timing of the move back to the UK is immaculate. Land a few months earlier and a chunk of whatever they've earned in America becomes taxable in Britain. Land now and it doesn't. So the same 9 days that look like a legal and immigration crisis also happen to be the 9 days that lock in a tax advantage worth protecting. Whatever's actually driving this, coincidence is doing a lot of work in that sentence.
Is the chief executive of the London tax and advisory firm Blick Rothenberg. And he said it's good to see Harry and Meghan achieve 6 full tax years of non-UK residency to manage the temporary non-resident rules for capital gains tax. They have clearly had some good tax advice.
Meghan's side of the story got its own quiet reveal. Within a day of the return becoming public, entertainment reporters were told Meghan had been offered a role on a UK-based project. Details still undisclosed.
Breaking right now, there's a reason Meghan Markle has just signed a big bucks entertainment role, because her husband, Prince Harry, is facing financial ruin after this bombshell courtroom decision this afternoon.
Veteran journalist Tina Brown went further, writing, "I can confirm Meghan has a job."
About the Sussex Thunderbolt. I can confirm Meghan has a job. The identity of the show is not yet clear, but it allows Harry at last to get her buy-in for his growing desire to get the hell out of paradise.
And describing the move as something that solves 2 identity crises for the Sussexes in one blow. Harry's fading standing in America,
WME, the talent agency that still represents her, to get her a role. The move to the UK solves 2 identity crises for the Sussex.
And Meghan's stalled acting career resolved by the same flight to London, which raises the question nobody in the official statement is answering directly. If the job is real, was it the reason for the move, or the justification for a move that was already happening for other reasons? The marriage angle isn't coming purely from tabloid speculation either. Roya Nika, royal editor of the Sunday Times, was asked directly on air whether anything had actually changed for Meghan personally. Her answer was careful, but pointed. Harry is much happier in the UK than he is in America. And on Meghan, it can't be the same for her. She stopped short of saying more, but a royal editor choosing her words that carefully on air about whether a couple is still fully aligned isn't nothing.
But he also is much happier in the UK than he is in America. It's as simple as that. It's not the same for Meghan.
But yeah, I was going to say it can't be the same for her. There were all sorts.
There's a colder red on the family framing too, raised by the same commentator who first flagged the immigration claim. If a marriage were ever heading toward a split, having the children's home base in Britain rather than California could matter enormously for how any custody arrangement gets decided. To be clear, nobody's confirmed the marriage is ending, and no filing exists anywhere. But it's the kind of detail that would explain why closer to family keeps getting offered as the public reason, when almost everything else about the timing points somewhere else entirely. There's a separate theory doing the rounds about why Meghan might be more visible in public once they're settled. The idea being that if people see more of her, they'll warm up to her. If that's genuinely part of the plan, it's worth sitting with for a second, because it means the "we just want our privacy" framing and the "get Meghan out in public more" framing can't both be true at the same time. One of them is the real strategy. The other is the story being told about it.
So it says here, those close to Harry believe his recent visit to Britain reflects his conviction that the more the public interacts with Meghan, the more they appreciate her. So this is a delusional belief from their time in Australia. You know, sometimes, Harry, people just want to meet famous people. That doesn't necessarily mean they like them. That's kind of the thing about humans. But I think what's really critical here is that Harry wants the public to interact with Meghan. Well, how would they do that? On a royal engagement. I imagine we will see Meghan at the Well Child Awards, ladies and gentlemen. She will be there. She will be with him a lot, because he believes if he forces her down their throats, that they will come.
Because here's the part that doesn't get nearly enough attention. moving to Britain doesn't actually hand either of them what a real relaunch would need. Back in 2019, before they'd even left, Harry and Meghan pitched exactly this kind of arrangement to the family. Official duties part of the time, private commercial life the rest of the time. It was turned down. The late Queen's team made it clear there was no version of half in, half out on offer. That refusal was the actual reason they left the following year. Under the terms agreed in 2020, their status doesn't change just by crossing the Atlantic. No automatic taxpayer-funded security kicks in just because they're living in the country again.
Because they're going to be in England for years. The return raises huge questions about the settlement reached after Megxit. Under the Sandringham Agreement of January 2020, Harry and Meghan were prevented from pursuing the hybrid arrangement that they'd originally envisaged, half in, half out, combining some official royal functions with the freedom to earn commercial income independently. Their new life in Britain will not overturn that principle. So Harry and Meghan are not returning as working royals. They're expected to continue running their private businesses and commercial enterprises and will not receive public money.
Asked directly on camera whether public money would go toward their protection, one government minister gave about as non-committal an answer as it's possible to give. This is a private matter. It's a matter for Harry and for Meghan, and we wish them well in the moves that they are making. That's not an endorsement. That's a government declining to touch the question at all. So returning doesn't restore a royal role, doesn't guarantee protection, and doesn't erase the legal bill.
Peter Hunt, speaking to the Press Association, did not dress it up. He said the surprise return leaves William stunned. I mean, it's under...
What it does is put them back in the same country as the story that made them famous, without the structure that used to come with it. Not everyone inside the family is reacting the same way either. One veteran royal commentator, speaking to the Press Association, described William's reaction to the surprise return in a single word: stunned. That tracks, because by most accounts he'd built his last 6 years around the assumption that this chapter was closed. A separate royal author speaking to the BBC framed the practical reality behind the enrolment detail directly. Children don't get placed in British schools as a trial run, only as a genuine relocation. If that reading holds, this isn't happening internally as a visit. It's a resettling. Time to school terms, not a season.
To a confirmation. Robert Hardman told the BBC that enrollment is the tale. The children are going to be raised.
There's also the public reaction to Way, and it's not the warm welcome the closer to family framing might suggest. One poll asked a straightforward question: should they come back? And the result split 3 ways. About 1 in 5 said yes, 1 in 3 said no, and the largest group, close to half, said they weren't sure or didn't particularly care. That's not universal rejection. But it's also nowhere near the reception a genuine, sympathetic homecoming would usually generate.
YouGov asks Britain a simple question: should they come back? And 21% said yes. So 21%, I have so many questions to ask about that. 33%, Illuminati confirmed, said no. And 45% said...
A country that's mostly indifferent isn't the audience you'd choose if the goal were rebuilding a public image. So the couple that left in 2020 because a compromise role wasn't on the table is walking back into the exact same set of rules 5 years later, with none of the leverage that came with actually holding a title. The pitch failed once already. Nothing in this announcement suggests the outcome is different this time.
How the Sussexes believe they have successfully executed the half-in, half-out model Harry and Meghan proposed to the royal family back in 2019. They have not, because the thing is, when it comes to a half-in, half-out model, the boss has to approve it. The employees don't get to approve it. The boss does. And this again shows that despite the Daily Mail report,
it just moves where they're standing when they find out. Go back to something Harry said a while ago when a reporter in California asked how he was processing everything happening with his family back home. His answer: I have my own family, as we all do, right? Whatever he meant by it in the moment, a lot of people read it as him drawing a hard line between 2 families, the one he'd built in California and the one he'd left behind. that line is going to sit awkwardly next to a decision to move that new family within reach of the old one in the same country for reasons that still haven't been fully explained.
In California, how have you processed the fact that there's so much happening back with your family where you come from?
I have my own family,
right?
So as we all do,
yeah.
right? So, my family and my life in California is a...
I have my own family. He wasn't talking about Charles and Catherine after their cancer diagnosis. He was saying he didn't even view them as...
Strip away the framing, and 4 threads are left that don't connect into one clean story. A legal bill that could run past £34 million. A tax deadline that happens to land in the exact same window. A claim, still unconfirmed anywhere else, that federal investigators have been reviewing how Harry got into the country in the first place. And a marriage that, according to at least one royal editor asked directly, isn't sitting the same way for both of them. Any one of those on its own could explain a sudden relocation. All 4 landing in the same 9. Days is what makes We Just Want to Be Closer to Family feel less like the real story and more like the version that was easiest to put in a press release.
Possibilities that we're going to get into in today's video, but the biggest takeaway here is that Harry and Meghan are trying to use the kids as an excuse. The reason they're coming back is for their...
Whatever's actually happening behind that decision, the family framing has a lot working against it right now. So the real question isn't whether Harry and Meghan are telling the truth about why they're coming home. It's which version of the truth they've decided is safe enough to say out loud. Which explanation do you buy? The legal trouble, the money, or something closer to home? Drop it in the comments and subscribe for the next update on this story.